Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is me. This is the Morning Rush, the morning empowerment call for busy executives, heart-centered leaders causing the change we want to see in the world. Song from The Greatest Showman. This is me. No apologies. Here we are this morning, and today we get to hear about giving and taking and thinking a little bit more deeply about where we maybe orient ourselves in that conversation. And I know no other better person than Jackie Simmons to be leading this conversation this morning, because she is someone who I believe to be a giver, someone who exudes the qualities of a giver in all aspects of her being, so to speak. I say all. I hesitated a little bit because who knows? Like sometimes it's like, oh, I know for myself, I thought I was a giver. And I looked at some of the traits of takers. And I was like, oh, sometimes I do that. So this is an opportunity to let Jackie lead us on a little conversation here. Over to you, Jackie.
What if? What if every label you ever thought applied to a person doesn't? Because in the case of giving versus taking, or a giver versus a taker, we're not talking about the person here. We are not talking about putting a label on a person. I believe labels belong on pickle jars and nowhere else, because labels limit us. What we're talking about, though, is discernment. Shifting your attention instead of the person, just sort of separating out their actions. What are their behaviors? Are their behaviors something that you want more of in your life? In that case, we would in shorthand call them a giver, because they behave in ways you want more of. You feel given to just being around them. They light up a room by walking into it. Or, on the other hand, by their behavior, do you feel taken from when they're around? We love everybody. So again, givers and takers, we're just talking about behavior. We love everybody, but how do you feel when you're around them? Do you feel your energy going up? Do you feel lit up when they arrive? Or do you feel lit up when they leave? Do they brighten a room by walking out of it? We all know people on one end or the other of that spectrum. They're pretty easy to spot. Statistically speaking, 20% of the world is hardwired as givers, and 20% of the world are hardwired as takers. It's that 60% in the middle that we're going to talk about. The 60% in the middle are fencers. They are the people who behave like givers when they're with givers, and they behave like takers when they're with takers. I was raised to be a fencer. I'm an Army brat. I was always moving, always new in a community, and to fit in, which is survival when you're a kid, is to fit in. Of course, as an adult, we know that if you play Tetris, the minute you fit in, you what? Disappear. But we don't know that as kids. So managing the fencers around you, you simply want to manage the environment. Make sure that your environment is filled with people who are more likely to give rather than take by their behaviors. Extremes, the person who gives and the universe just seems to take care of them. On the other end, the extreme, the person who stands in front of a stove and says, "Give me heat, and then I'll give you some wood." We know people at the extremes, they're easy to spot. Just assume that everyone else is a fencer and you'll be better off. Manage your own environment. Bring givers closer to you. And when you spot someone who is primarily takerish in their behaviors, just respectfully distance. Don't diss them. Don't talk them down. And heaven forbid, do not try to change them. They are happy the way they are. Leave them alone. You ever meet somebody who's happy being unhappy? They're only happy when they're upset. Their drama desires by their behaviors. Just respectfully distance. And there you go. How do you build a better relationship? First, decide who do you want to build a better relationship with? Because it's easy to build a relationship with a taker. They will become your best friend. They will glom onto you until they can't take anything else from you. They are not interested in walking a mile in your shoes because they've got a plan to take your shoes. So just be mindful who you're around. Build yourself a community of people who are more giving in their behaviors, and the fencers in your life will start to behave like givers more and more. But that's up to you. You do get to choose who you're around. They don't have to be like you. They just have to light you up when they're around. Thank you very much, David. Was that good enough?
Always good enough. Thank you, Jackie. I think there's a lot of distinctiveness here for even just to give people background. Jackie introduced me to Givers University a little while back now. And a lot of the distinction inside that is, what is a giver? What is a taker? And sometimes we don't think about it like that, but I like the distinction. It's not about the person and label, it's about the actions. Jackie, do you want to just dig a little bit more into the difference of the label versus the actions, and what would be an example of like a taker action that you would distance yourself from?
Well, it just happened in my life. On a phone call, planning a visit. At the end of the call, they said, because we were coming to help them sort out some family stuff, and they said, oh, and we have to agree that you're not going to take anything from my house that I don't know about. Where'd that come from? We'd been talking for an hour. And I went, whoa. And then she went into some history, and I'm like, and so there's something from that you want, like the rotary dial phone that's under my table in the living room? She's like, no, there's nothing specific, just wanting to be clear. And I'm like, you got it. Well, there was real clarity. She had revealed herself as a taker. She made an accusation that was baseless. And I'm like, I was supposed to be bringing her a set of family canisters to complete a set that she had because they'd been split up over the years. So I kept my commitment to her. I packaged those things up and put them in the mail to her. And she received them in good shape, praised me for the packaging, and I will not reach out to her. That's all that respectfully distancing is. Not calling them out. It's just you don't reach out to them. You're not going to invite them to your parties because why would you? They bring you down. And if she texts me or whatever, I'm polite, I'm respectful because I love her. I'm just not going to invite her closer into my life. So when someone makes a swipe at you or a poke at you, that's not giving behavior. That's bringing you down. How do you tell a giver from a taker? Do they smile more than they frown? This is not rocket science, guys. This is that simple. Do they smile more than they frown? That might be what they call a clue. Did that answer your question, David?
Yes, thank you. And I think it's challenging sometimes because there's people that we feel are givers, and then they reveal something that's like, ooh, there's something else underneath the surface. And then there's also, I think, forgiveness and growth. And as you said, fencers are people who may exhibit both characteristics. And so we need to be discerning in, I guess, the boundaries that we hold and how we identify these. If we get a little bit more fine-tuned, we can identify them a lot easier.
All right, I'm going to take the word boundary out of this conversation because a boundary is pushing against something. And that's the opposite of what you want to do. The minute you start pushing against them, you are giving them more of your energy. You're allowing them, actually, you're really facilitating, call it enabling them to take from you when you start pushing against them. Whatever we resist persists, whatever we push against, we strengthen. So instead, just respectfully distance. You just don't engage. It's like no weapons. That's the thing in martial arts, no weapons. So there's just no weapons, and the energy will just dissipate. And when they don't get a rise out of you anymore, they're just like a bully. When they can't get an emotional hit from you, they stop paying attention to you. And if you want a really good book on how to handle a bully, get The Bully Vaccine. It's written for kids about 8 years old to be read with their parents. It's got some of the best assertiveness training I've ever taken in it. And if you want the adult version of assertiveness training, you do When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. Old book, classic assertiveness training. And if you want to know more about givers versus takers or Givers University, ask David. In the meantime, who will you be today? Will you smile more? Will you have more fun? There are rules for being a giver in Givers University. Rule number 7, smile more. Rule number 8, have more fun. Rule number 9, have and show more enthusiasm. Rule number 10, know why you're doing it. Why is this important to you? Why do you show up here every morning? Know your why. So there we go.
All right. This sounds like fun. So it sounds like we're going into the breakout rooms, ladies and gentlemen. And what actions will you take as a giver today? Will you smile more? Will you have more fun? Will you get clear on your purpose? Will you have more enthusiasm in the space? Will you light up a room versus pull that energy from a room? And you get to do that as practice in the breakout room as well right now. Give inside the breakout room. And we just posted some breakout room guidelines. I just want to be clear, like, let's let everybody have a chance to share. Let's also respect the space. There's no coaching in the breakout rooms unless somebody gave you permission to give them coaching or feedback. And also, the breakout rooms are a sacred place. So if we come back into the main room, don't share somebody else's personal information in the space unless they've already given you permission to do so. With that, we're going into the breakout rooms. How will you be a giver today? How are you going to light up a room? Opening the rooms. See you all on the other side.